The Rey Dau Gamma Set is busted in Monster Hunter Wilds. I mean, look at this. Level 3 Latent Power, and that goes into the whole thing about this set, is that, oh, you get the activation of the Latent Power skill extended when you have 2 or 4 pieces. And it's really good at 4 pieces, and then Tenacity just goes right into that. You have less defense, but you can survive 1 lethal hit, so you just get 1 shot, activate your Latent Power. It's going to last for 3.5 minutes, and now you have 50% crit once you get everything on the set. So it's a beautiful set. You also have 2 level 3 slots on a piece of armor. That's nuts. Now, the boots are trash, but that's actually a good thing, because the Mizutsune beta boots are absurd. You can just put Burst 3 on 1 piece of gear, like that. And the really cool thing is this build is really easy to make. I used lucky vouchers on 4 Arc-Tempered Hunts, and I was able to make all the pieces. Maybe if you get unlucky, it's going to take 1 more, but you get it done in an hour, and then you have a crazy set. So let's hop on over to Mobalytics to really see all the numbers and all this cool stuff you can do for yourself. If you enjoyed the video, or if it helps out in any way, please leave a like, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts down below. What is your build looking like? Also, you can check out my Mobalytics page to find more builds and all kinds of cool stuff going on. So yeah, look at all you get, and it's just pretty easy to put together. You get level 5 Latent Power. Well, that's going to be 50% affinity while active. Well, how do we activate it? So like I said, 130 hit points or 120 seconds since the beginning of the quest or last deactivation, and then with the set we get 210 seconds. So a lot of uptime for just 50% affinity. Okay. And then Burst is one of the best DPS skills. You just gotta hit them once every 4 seconds to keep the chain going, and then you get tons of attack and elemental damage. Now, I was trying to think about a way of getting burst boost in here, but the problem is the Mizutsune Greaves are just too good, as well as the extra 60 seconds, so a full minute from the 4 out of 4 on Rey Dau's voltage. So yeah, you don't get like the extra second and then the 3 raw damage if you have like burst boost. That's already outclassed. We got Gamma Sets now. Maximum Might. That's just a part of the set. And then we even have Stamina Surge. And also the thing about Latent Power is that it reduces stamina depletion. So that's kind of the whole point. You activate it, and then you're able to keep up Maximum Might, which is another 30% affinity. So the set just gives you 80% affinity. Go put in something else like Weakness Exploit. Can also go Foray. I'm just a big fan. I am Team Burst. And if you're a Wex fan, well, it's going to be in the build, and you just get 1 level from the helm, and then you can put whatever you want on the helm, depending on, like, your playstyle and your weapons. I haven't played with all the weapons. I'm a hunting horn main, so you should have a good idea about what your class wants with, like, raw, or element, or the playstyle. Or, like, if they're more agile, then yeah, it's going to be easier to proc the weakness exploit. Maybe you even want some flair in there. But if you're also not speedrunning and you're just simple DPS and you know you can do alright with maintaining burst sometimes, that like, yeah, if the monster gets staggered or they're exhausted or they get paralyzed and you can just hit them and get tons of damage and now you're getting tons of crits on top of that, it's going to be pretty good as well. This works really well with Ardian weapons where, yeah, now you don't have to worry about putting in too much affinity. You just go all attack. So huge raw damage. You get the sharpness, so you just keep that damage on. And then critical jewel for the critical boost, because we have 80 to 100% crit. And be really happy if someone brings the affinity melody with a hunting horn, because then you don't have to do anything. And you just have max affinity. Now, I'm showing level 5 attack boost here to make note of the 4% attack and then 9 raw on top of that, which is going to go really good since we're always critting and our crits are doing more with critical boost. But it's probably worse than Razor Sharp, depending on, like, maintaining sharpness, where, yeah, that raw multiplier is just going to be better. But I really like pointing out the power of, like, base damages and multipliers and extra multipliers and extra damage, as we're also just getting crazy amounts of raw damage as well. And then we have Counter-Strike, where the whole point of the build is actually getting hit. So you get hit, plus 25 attack, and then it's going to be for 45 seconds. The easy way of getting this done is you go Counter Charm level 3, and then everything else is going to be your decoration slots, and it just slots in really nicely all together, pretty easy. So that's going to be level 5 burst, level 5 latent power, the counter strike, and you can find some weakness exploit or the foray, and then we have foray burst. So this is also where things get kind of weird because counter is just better than foray. Now if we're dealing with like 3 slots or something, level 3 foray is only going to be 10% affinity and 10 attack. Well, because of everything else going on, the affinity doesn't really matter. It's going to be temporary because it's a poison or paralysis proc, which means you have to have like a poison weapon to keep that going, and then you're chaining paralysis into it, which isn't a bad idea. And if you're already maining status Ardian weapons, it seems like the natural thing to do, where you just put in a lot of foray, but then the raw from Counter-Strike is just better, especially with the crits. But if you want to do that, yeah, you can actually still find level 5 latent power, level 5 burst, and then a level 3 foray, and I guess that's going to keep up affinity for like the 1 second you're not going to have maximum stamina. And then we can see the differences in the talisman that, oh, we just get max full-on Counter-Strike with our talisman, or we get like 2 points of foray, or we shuffle around the jewels and stuff, and yeah, we end up with 3 foray instead of 3 Counter-Strike. And the Counter-Strike is just going to be more raw that you can have more active for more points in time. I just wanted to make a note on it for the build because jumping from level 2 to level 3 Counter-Strike is going to give you 10 raw damage. So that's all you're going to get out of foray at level 3 when it's active. And again, the affinity, even if the affinity was needed, that's also not going to matter too much. And then you're just going to want like a paralyzer weapon, and you can also put a poison weapon at the same time. So crit status, since we're always critting, razor sharp handicraft, just to kind of keep that huge uptime on your sharpness, and then whatever element you're going to be using. So yeah, if you are an element enjoyer or status enjoyer, you can do all this fun stuff, except you just change everything around. So this is going to be the counter jewel, and then you swap out the foray for burst, and everything's going to be great. So we can take that idea into an elemental weapon with counter, and this is going to be any elemental weapon for any favorable matchup where, yo, the enemy is weak to dragon, water, fire, ice, thunder. You just run that Ardian weapon, and then you can still get all the crazy benefits because the burst is going to give you that elemental damage boost. For dragon, I was trying to like look into the Arc Vulcan where you get convert element, but again, the Thunderous Roar level 4 is just too good to give up. So, yep, Mizutsune Greaves also just too good to do anything else with. You can also still run a paralysis weapon and then a primary element weapon because paralyzing the enemy is going to be really nice, especially if people are just piling onto it with paralysis and you get the first couple of procs before it builds up a resistance, and you still have like the same stuff going on, especially because crit status into your high amounts of crit. Now, I know that crit element is actually fraudulent, but I just want to have it here for the show. Like, hey, if they buff it, or if you just want to feel good about always critting and then getting that little bit of extra crit damage bonus, there we go. So it's going to be like crit element handicraft, razor sharp handicraft, and then depending on your weapon, you run whatever else you want. So KO on a blunt weapon, or you can mix it up, and then other things like, yeah, if you don't use the crit element. There's also different weapon types that have unique gems, so if I'm running a hunting horn, then I'm going to want the sonorous jewel, and I'm not really losing too much for the crit element. So all the weapon stuff for these gods right here is just going to be placeholder, again, because it's about how you run your weapon and what you need for that, but then just getting the free 80% affinity running into burst, and then everything else you need to kind of bring the build together. You are going to be glass cannon, but that's kind of the entire point, especially because it gives you a free death that isn't really a KO. And then you're just giga boosted to pop off, and everything is great. So really fun, really cool set to look at where it just gives you everything. And then you can open up new playstyles with that and find crazy amounts of, like, not true speed running, but if you just want to get, like, more efficient or just, like, farm out events and lower level hunts, yeah, you just get beat up for a little bit and then you practically one-shot the monster back in a very short amount of time. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.